welcome to another episode of the Bright Siding Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Bogdan, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest and this beautiful and very timely summer conversation with Bridget Firtle of ROCKAWay. She is an incredible business leader and all-around cool girl, born and raised in Rockaway Beach, NYC. ROCKAWay is a functional soda brand that is rooted in the concept of where the streets meet the beach. And I am always impressed by brands that capture the essence of specific places. And if you know me at all, you know that Rockaway Beach is my home away from home in New York City. I was raised by certified beach people, and we were the kind of family that was on the beach at 8 a.m., off the beach at 8 p.m. in the summers. So when I discovered Rockaway Beach for myself in like 2016, 2017, it instantly just became kind of my safe haven and a place I would go to think my thoughts and dream and relax and be chaotic. And yeah, and since then I've been out there more times than I can count. I've hosted Camp Bogs out there. I've spent 4th of July's out there, and I really hope to settle there someday. It's my dream to, have a house in Rockaway and, raise a family there, maybe someday. But anyway, I've had this company on my radar for a really long time. I discovered the brand in 2021 and remember researching Bridget then and was really inspired by her story. She was working on Wall Street for a long time, then left to take a big risk and start a rum brand, which she then sold and eventually began working on ROCKAWay, which is her latest venture. And yeah, it's an incredible product. It's a functional soda. It's delicious. There are a ton of flavors. The artwork on the cans is so cool. And when I was in Bali earlier this year, dying after getting so sick at surf camp, I listened to an interview with her on another podcast called The Exit Whisperer. And I was like, I have to have a conversation with this woman. She's so amazing, so inspiring. And what I really, really love about her is that a huge part of her essence is defining, work hard, play hard on her own terms. She describes herself as someone who's very disciplined and very, movement oriented and, very, very active in all arenas. And I definitely identify with those traits, working on the discipline always. But I wanted to have a conversation about what that really meant to her and what that practice of, running a business while taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, showing up as the best version of you, what that really looked like, because that's a tall order. And our conversation was really special and really a gift. So thank you so much, Bridget, for taking the time to be on the Bright Siding podcast. If you are listening to this, please go get your hands on a case of ROCKAWay. It is so good. What a summer treat. And also healthy. So we love that. Thank you as always so much for being here. It's awesome that we get to spend this time together. It is an honor for me to be here and to be having these sorts of conversations. So thank you so much. And I hope wherever you are having a great day. So talk to you very soon. Enjoy the conversation and let me know if you have any feedback. Okay. Love ya. All right. We're live. Bridget, thank you so much for joining the Bright Siding podcast. It was fully my intention to have a ROCKAWay in front of me right now, but it just did not happen. I was not able to get to the starting time. But imagine me cracking open a nice cold functional soda right now. Oh my gosh, you've got one.
I got one for you. The pineapple ginger.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Is that your favorite flavor right now, would you say?
It is. I love, they're all my children, but I'm partial to pineapple ginger.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I'm so
You're not
excited
supposed to have you're not supposed to have a favorite kid, but
I wouldn't know yet, but I imagine that it's hard to choose your favorite. Yeah. Um, but I'm so glad we're talking because I've been a huge fan of Drink Rockaway for the past few years. And when I first got my hands on the brand, I was doing some research about like, I was like, who's behind this? This is such a fun, exciting product to me. And I'm such a Rockaway Beach girl. I live in the Lower East Side, but I'm out in the Rockaways any chance I can get. I remember the first time I went out there, I was living in the financial district at the time, like right by the ferry. And I grew up in a family of like, we're at the beach at 8 a.m., we're off the beach at 8 p.m. kind of people. And when I learned that there was a ferry to this magical place called Rockaway when I was like 23, it became such a safe haven for me and such a like place of grounding and like just escaping the chaos of Manhattan. And I've just come to love so many of the, small businesses and brands that have popped up there over the years, Rockaway being a huge one. And when I learned more about your story and your journey leaving the corporate world, starting a rum brand, I believe, is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah, starting a
Yep.
rum brand and then pivoting into functional soda. I've just been again quietly fangirling for the past few years and really taking a lot of inspiration from your journey. And sorry, it's gonna be a long-winded intro, but this
Hmm.
winter I was at a surf camp in Bali, and I got super sick. I got Bali belly, which is like a pretty classic like rite of passage after um, a few rough days in the water. But I was listening to some podcasts as I was just kind of like recovering. One of them being your interview with the Exit Whisperer, and it was just amazing to hear more about your journey. And I know that was a little bit more like of a business focus, but I am so excited to have you on to just hear more about like the personal side of what this journey has been from leaving corporate America to now. And I just think it's so incredible to hear stories of women who are like taking the path less traveled. And yeah, so I guess my first question is like, in researching you and the brand, something that I really felt connected to was your kind of personal ethos on creating like life on your own terms and creating this like work hard, play hard kind of balance in a way that feels aligned to you, which I think is something that is really hard to do. I left corporate America last April. I was working in tech for the longest time. And I feel like I'm deep in the work of like trying to find that balance between like grinding and getting what needs to get done for my business and being able to kind of like integrate rest and play and health. And I would love to know what your journey has been with that over the years and kind of where you're at with that today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the beginning of my career at the hedge fund, I kind of just was floating. I was, doing what business. I come from a long line of business people. I studied finance, undergrad and grad. It comes naturally to me. I love numbers. I just felt drawn to studying the financial markets and, financial theory. And then just kind of was like, okay, MBA in finance, get a hedge fund job. Cool. I'm young, making a lot of money, like getting cool exposure, blah, 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 blah. Like, without getting into the end of that, part of my chapter of my life, leaving the fund, which we can talk about. But like, I kind of was just floating around until I wasn't. Then with Oni's, which was my rum brand, which is what I, left Wall Street to start anew doing, I was kind of just like push force, like go, 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 like work hard. You talk about work hard, play hard. I started in my 20s. I was, you know, working in the distillery, selling the rum, out every night, partying, up in the morning at a soul cycle class or a yoga class or something. And it was just like, I have a tremendous amount of like capacity and energy. And it was just like a blur in a different way. Until there was like some sort of burnout, which I think was like sort of the original impetus for eventually selling the business was like, okay, I need a partner in this in one, form or another. And now as I'm transitioned, as I sold that business, worked for the acquirer, left the acquirer, now my balance is like, whereas with the Onish chapter, it was like, okay, check this box, like did my workout, did my, like distilled the rum, hit 17 accounts, selling the rum, like went to a party, got up, did it again. Now the balance is like a lot. My consciousness is, my consciousness practice, for lack of a better term, is way more elevated. And it's something that I work on constantly. So I think my balance is like my work and my growth, in that regard, is like truly moment to moment. And it's clearly imperfect, but I think it's like recognizing where you are in every single moment of every single day. If you can do that, right? Or like trying to strive for that. So, and then being like, oh, this is a heightened awareness. This is what happens when I do this. And this is what causes me to feel. And so if I implement a tactic or a practice to help, balance that thing that is shifting one way or the other, whether that be a movement practice, journaling, drinking a glass of wine, like going for a walk, hugging my kids, whatever those things that work for different people. I think it's, again, a long-winded way of saying like my balance practice is really occurring, way more in the moment than it ever was before, where it was more of like a box checking thing in the past. It's now like getting to know myself deeper and deeper every single day.
Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful gift that you can give, not just yourself, but your family and the people that you're around too, because so much of this starts with our internal world. And it sounds like you were going from two super high intensity environments, going from Wall Street, going to starting your rum brand, selling your rum brand, well, being all in and being kind of wearing so many hats for the brand and then ultimately selling it. Would you say that there was a moment maybe during the time when you were working for the acquirer that something happened where you were like, I need to like adjust my lifestyle, or I need to like kind of take a break in a certain way, that ultimately led you to creating this functional soda brand? Or was it a more gradual, easeful transition, just like into a different sort of way of working?
There are a lot of ways I can answer that question. I guess firstly, no, there wasn't one moment where I was like, okay, I need a light, like this is an aha moment and I need a repose, a repositioning of my lifestyle. I think it was just organic. I had made the decision to sell the business. There was a good opportunity to do so. I was ready for, something new and different. It was comfy working for a corporation for the first year. I had been exhausted. I sold the business. I got married. I went on a bunch of vacations. I had health insurance, like all those good things. And then I think, typical for someone of my constitution, I'm entrepreneurial. I don't like authority. I don't like living in like a construct, kind of textbook things that you read about, but it's just really interesting to experience them. So I think over time, I lasted 3 years at the acquirer. I have no, ill will or bad things to say about them. It's me not fitting in a corporate environment. And so, eventually just the voices were getting louder and louder. And I was like, okay, it's time. Like, you know, I'm ready I had my comfort. I had like the nice experience. And quite honestly, like without the like entrepreneurial feist in a corporation, it was a really good learning experience to understand how much bigger liquor companies operate. Super cool. And then, I was ready to start anew. I gave my notice the first day of quarantine in March of 2020,
Wow.
which was an interesting timing. The meeting had been on the books with the executive team there for, several weeks. And took place over the phone instead of in person. And I don't know if that was the universe aligning, like, okay, time to like fully like come in. And that's just what I did. And I, you know, I could have paused longer. I'll say that has been a learning experience. I was like, okay, what's next? What's next? And I started doing some consulting. I did some investing, and I founded Rockaway because I was like, I need something. I need to be operating something. I need a creative outlet. You know, I like to move fast. I don't like to stop. I don't like to move slowly. These are all things that I know about myself. And so, yeah, I founded Rockaway in September of 2020. It was a website, basically. Obviously, we had product, but I had no real understanding of where it was going to go. Again, I was doing multiple things at the time, and it was just kind of like a for fun thing. Obviously, like inspired by my hometown, my love for the ocean, taking a break from operating in the alcohol space, and so on. We can like delve further into what drew me to soda, but um, yeah, it wasn't. It was all an amalgamation of lived experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And before we dive into the brand itself and the soda of it all, the drink Rockaway of it all, I would love to know more about like what those voices were that were telling you, okay, it's time to step away. It's time to step into something new, because I certainly relate to that. I think the last few years of my time in corporate America, I was definitely hearing a lot of those voices myself. And I think at the beginning of hearing those voices, it can be kind of a scary thing to be like, wait, am I really going to walk away from this health insurance, from this, you know, comfortable, predictable salary? How, like, am I really going to walk away from all this to take a risk? And it sounds like by the time you were leaving um, the acquirer that had taken over the rum brand, like you were no stranger to risk. And it sounds like in general, you're quite self-aware about how you're driven and what types of structures are good for you,
Mm-hmm.
from like a working perspective. But I think a lot of people hear those voices and don't know if they are allowed to listen to them, or don't really give them space to reveal, something that could actually be really exciting. So I would love to know more about like, how did you ingest ingest that, and how did you kind of know within yourself that it was really time to leave?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think you don't generally with any sort of decision making in life, personal or professional, like you don't know until you know, and then you know. And I have a pretty good gut, and I'm generally good at listening to my gut, but my head is also, you know, I'm very grateful for the capacity that my brain has, but it's also something that can get in my way. And I would imagine that to be the same for a lot of other people. So, you have to step outside of your thoughts and, acknowledge that your brain is there to think, and that's its job. And like what you choose to like identify with and focus on will help you to get clarity on where you should go. I would think I do think that like I am also inherently a risk taker. And when I first, jumped out of the hedge fund into rum, um, for better or worse, it was like without much thought. Um, it was gut. There was an aha moment, like I'm gonna go build a rum distillery, and like I just didn't look back. Um, I was young, I had this support of my, moved out of my Tribeca loft and like home with my parents to Rockaway. I didn't have the responsibility of a family. I was like, okay, like the like one thought was like, if this doesn't work, like I'll just go back to Wall Street and get a job again. Like it'll be fine. But I didn't choose to focus on that thought. And honestly, those are thoughts that like I've totally eliminated, and I've struggled with in recent years with Rockaway, to be honest with you. I have two kids now. I pay for the family's health insurance. It's a different ball game, and there have been many times when like the days are not easy in running your own business where I'm like, you shouldn't use should. I should just go get my, job in private equity or venture capital or whatever, like make the ridiculous amount of money that we know you can make in that field, given my experience, have health insurance, have comfort, like all of those things. And like truly I've eliminated those thoughts from the bad days, because I've rewired, I believe in the capacity to rewire your brain. And And the fact of the matter is, if I do that, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to eat myself up inside. I'm going to be twisted, and that's going to infect my family. And I need to be able to like live authentically, because it's just the best route for not just myself, but my stakeholders and my children and my husband.
Yeah. I love that. That's so beautiful. And I very much relate. I'm about a year and a half ish, a little bit more than a year out of corporate America. And it's, yeah, I am very much deep in those days too, where I'm just like, I gave up all of this like ease for a lot of challenge. And I've grown more in the past year than I think I did in 5+ years at the company that I was last at. But it's really easy on those tough days to just be like, damn, it would in theory be so easy to just go back to that. But I'm curious, like, you talk a lot about eliminating those thoughts. Like, what are some of your practices around getting
Uh,
that out of your head?
yeah, I mean, I think it's like a lot of the things that the proverbial read about or think about. um you know I journal every morning, I meditate, I move every day, usually through yoga or other movement practices that connect the mind to the body. I walk. I have mantras. I write myself like notes on post-its and like post them around my desk. And it's like how you have conversations with yourself. And like, let me just be totally clear. Like, I think it's awesome if you are thriving in corporate America. Like, good on you. Honestly, I fantasize about like just doing that and like being really content and really happy with that, because I think that's great. It's just not who I am in my soul. And but anyway, rewiring the brain, it's an everyday practice. And like, it's
Yeah.
also recognizing, like, yesterday I was having a really bad day. Like, things were swirling. I was getting like tossed around in the washing machine, um you know from a business perspective. And I had not slept well the night before. And I'm just like, 2 p.m, like, I'm done. And that's like one of the freedoms that comes with being an entrepreneur. I was like, 2 p.m, I'm done. Like, I was out, working in stores, with reps yesterday, and I was like, I gotta call it a day, because like I have recognized that like my tank is on empty, and like I'm not bringing my best self and best energy to represent my brand, in these situations today. And I just went home, and I like went for a walk, hung out with my kids, like, and just regrouped. Went to bed early, got a good night's sleep. And like, nothing is permanent. And definitely your like state, and you're in control of like implementing tactics to change your state in the moment too, right? Like, jumping up and down, like I shake, I jump, like I'll go for a walk around the block, like take 7 deep breaths. All of these little things, it works. It doesn't work in a one-off situation. It's like it has to become part of your like everyday living. And I'm a very disciplined person, and I also like have lived through the effects of these like little things that work for me. And everyone's different, and things are going to work differently for different people. But it's super powerful and so cool. Like, you can really like eliminate limiting beliefs. And why can't you believe that? Why can't your truth be like something that other people would doubt?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And to your point, it is so fun and affirming when you start to see these things work, and when you find the mantras or the routines or I don't want to call them tricks because they're really not, but the strategies that enable you to move forward. And sometimes it is as simple as just saying, I need to take the afternoon to go just reset, and I have to go
Yeah.
regulate my nervous system. And that is definitely a gift that is provided when you are working for yourself and you're kind of doing doing things on your own terms. But I do think there are ways to integrate those sort of strategies even in a corporate context too. And I think it's so important to experiment and to give yourself the opportunity to figure out what works for you. Bright siding as a project for me is like one giant experiment of like figuring out how to just like access joy as a baseline. I heard someone say that at like a deadlifting competition of all things recently. And I was like, that is so beautiful. Like joy as a baseline is such a conscious and like gorgeous way to like strive to be. And I don't know, for me, it's so much about like pure joy as a baseline, but like contentedness and feeling regulated and feeling confident and good about what I'm working towards, like purposeful. And when you're striving towards that and you're like in the stages of figuring out like what those strategies are that work for you, it can be somewhat discouraging as you're like, okay, well, like I'm trying these things and they're not really working. Or like this, I read this book and it said to like wake up at 5 a.m. and do a cold plunge, but like that's not me. And I think there can be such beauty and fun and joy and like treating it all as an experiment and like learning to hold it all a little bit more like lightly too. And I just think that's like such an important message for people to hear, that it's like it's all so personal and it does require so much like self-awareness of like what works for you. So
Yeah, I think
I love how
that's,
you're thinking about this.
and that definitely, your last comment there about like everything is an experiment really resonates with me. I think that I've had with the Rockaway business, maybe because my consciousness is elevated, maybe because my lived experience is that much greater, just having been through more things than when I started my rum business. But in the first couple of years of operations, like there were many mistakes and many like wrong hires and just things like that. And I'm like, oh, like this is a mistake. I wasted this. I did this wrong. And like, that's just not the right, that's, I've reframed that to be similar to like what you just described as like, everything's an experiment. It's not that serious. Like, it's just soda. Like, how can I more skillfully manage relationships, make decisions? Okay, I learned that. I had to take a risk on that. I had to try this. Okay, now it's a trial. I tried this. It's not working. Okay, well, how can I redesign, you know, the strategy going forward? So yeah, I'm kind of like with you, and not like giving yourself grace and not beating yourself up about like things that didn't, and enjoying the ride. I know it sounds like so cliche. And when I was starting Oni's, that was my rum brand, all of the like mentors or like older successful business people I ran into were like, enjoy it. You're going to miss like the hustle in the beginning. You're like going to reflect positively on it. And like, yeah. And like, honestly, and maybe I'm an old person now, but like, they're just so right. I was like running so hard and so fast for that exit. And then the exit came and it was like a couple of days of relief, good amount of money on the bank account, and like some stress gone. And then like very quickly thereafter, I was like, I'm bored. Like I need another challenge. So I think pace is something I think a lot about, and pacing myself with this business. I'm also not striving for an exit. I'm striving for this to be, my legacy and my, potentially something that my children inherit, and a family business over time. And that's also been quite a challenge, honestly, because all of the noise in startup world, especially with all of the capital and private markets, is like, go out, raise money, do this, do that. This is the formula, get acquired. Like, I don't, in my truth, I don't believe that. But it's really hard to like eddy out of the herd, and stay like with your feet on the ground and like in your beliefs on how to really organically build a brand.
Yeah, quieting the noise is that's a conscious practice. That's a daily practice
Yeah.
for me too. And I'm in a very different industry, I guess you could say, but yeah, the playbooks for scaling a brand, audience growth, like all of these things they can feel very noisy to me too at times. And I've had to really, over the past few months, buckle down on my gut, which I also think is like very, very strong. I think I'm a very intuitive person, and just be like, I can totally see the value and the wisdom in like a strategy like this, or certain, you know, pieces of conventional wisdom for people trying to scale something like what I'm building. But I just like have to do this on my own terms. And I have to take, it's about like being open to like the wisdom that might actually make sense for me, and not being like stubborn against like all things that don't feel like they originate
Yes.
from my brain. Um, but yeah, like trusting your path and being intuitive about your business it's not the easiest thing to do. And I respect what you're doing with Rockaway. And I think that this is a good moment to pivot into the brand itself, because a reason that I'm such a huge fan, as I said earlier, is that it feels so truly reflective of what Rockaway means to me and like as a community. And I would love to hear more about like how you captured the essence of this like incredibly special place, and like what was behind the inspiration to like really root this in the place that you live. And did you grow up in Rockaway? I
Born and raised. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so tell me
Yeah.
more about the connection and what it's been like to build a brand that is so representative of the literal place that you come from.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just again a reflection of my like my essence. And so it doesn't really feel like, it just feels organic. Like I'm born and raised 40 years there. Like I feel I am a fiery person. I am a fire sign. Water cools me. It is like the one of the things that brings balance, like the ocean, and like looking at the ocean, being in the ocean, like feet in the sand, like that brings me back down. And I love my childhood in Rockaway, and like my continued, you know, like living and interacting with my family and friends and everyone that still lives there full time, and I'm there, at least half the time. Um, it's where the streets meet the beach. I like took the A train from the last stop in on the line into Manhattan every day for high school and back, and like just watching the neighborhood transform. Like I lived through 9/11 there. I lived through the plane crashing there. Like there's a lot that we can unpack on like my like heart and soul connection to this place. So it's hard for me to like speak tactically on like how I created the brand world when it just feels like my soul into the product and into the place, and it's just like bringing those visuals that are just there into the brand world.
That's amazing. And that authenticity really shines through. Obviously, we're having this conversation now, and I can definitely like see you being so connected to it. But even just through the artwork that's on the cans and even the flavors, like it really does feel so playful, and like it again captures the spirit of this place that is like so unique and so special to me. And I'm curious, as you were like getting started with it and really rooted in that authenticity, like how did you decide to how are you partnering with artists? Like how are you capturing the like visuals of Rockaway in this like playful way that it is on the cans? Like, was that something you were doing with friends? Was it like a collaborative effort? What was your vision?
Yeah, so I think when we ever so kind of like two part here, because we were talking about like listening to feedback, a few minutes ago, and like when to follow something and when to follow some noise or some tidbit. So we actually have an updated can that we recently launched in January. I originally started, again, I started this as a very much a passion project and a for fun, like, let's go and see what it does. I fully committed to this being my next full-time venture at the end of 2022. So in 2020, I worked with one of my close friends on the can design, who's like a phenomenal artist. Name's Alex Cannon. And she and I had worked together on some visuals and art for my rum brand towards the end of my tenure with the rum company. And she's really inspired me to do this pattern. And so we worked together on, she knows the neighborhood very, very well as well. And just worked together on putting together different elements of like where the streets meet the beach, the lifeguard chairs, the, A train, pigeons, seagulls, fences and waves. And like, it's just, again, such like a cool thing where you like step off the blacktop into this like beautiful beach. And like, again, it's to your point, I'm just reiterating, like a very unique place. As the brand evolved, and I started to lean more into like truly understanding supermarket and grocery retail and my consumer, we learned a few things about the actual package. And without getting like too business oriented, I don't think that's where this conversation is going. We learned that like the consumer, my original vision was like, oh, this can is so cool. Like people are going to pull it off the shelf, find out what it is, and, be like, okay, this is great. And what I learned was like, you have like 2, 3, 4 seconds to catch someone's eye in the shelf or on the shelf. So they really need to know what they're getting. And, what it is, what's the flavor, like, didn't have time. And not that the first iteration wasn't working. It just we needed to improve it. So, these are the new cans that dropped. So similar, same logos touched up a little bit. Also engaged with an awesome creative director designer in Rockaway, Chris Cristiano, his name is.
I follow him on Instagram. That's so funny.
Yeah, he designed these Rockaway 2.0 cans. And we went through like he and another woman, Lindsay Wynn, and I, like 3 just powerful people in different capacities last summer. So about a year ago to the date, just took on this like total like refresh project. We did some focus groups with SurveyMonkey and, in life, qualitative things, talking to buyers at retail and so on and so forth. And like, it was painful. It was, from a personal level, like I was like, this is my baby. Like I didn't have to go through this type of like refresh at all with my rum company. And I was like, detaching from that first design was really, really hard. And I like really wanted to just bail. I was also like 6 months pregnant. I was like, I'm not like, I'm going to get a job. Like it was very, shout out to Lindsay and Chris, if you listen to this, like for hanging in there with me when I was like, just really not wanting to do this anymore. But like, I'm so happy about how they came out. And like, it was scary too, right? Because like people like our loyal fans for the original, like, why'd you do that? And then there's like all this noise and fear associated with a relaunch. But it's working. Sales are up 370% year to date, year over year. The reorder rate's like 86%. Like, so yeah, it feels really good. But it was a painful, like, again, like contraction coming in, trying to choose what to listen to, what not to listen to. Like ultimately it's my vision and my company, but like managing all different voices internally and externally for that refresh.
Well, it sounds like you got really lucky with some amazing collaborators. It sounds like there was a lot of trust there. And I think that is such a critical part of this conversation we're having about like filtering out the noise and knowing what feedback to take and knowing when to stand your ground. It's so important to have that like formal or informal like board of directors kind of vibe where you know that even if there's like an emotional like attachment happening for you when you're like taking in that feedback, like that they have your best interest in mind and the interest of the brand. And I think that's really gorgeous. And I'm so excited to get my hands on some of the new cans. I'm pretty sure the grocery store right across the street from me sells Rockaway. So I'm going to go out and grab some
there you
this
go.
afternoon. But I'm curious what how the brand and how creating a brand that is so rooted in place has changed or affected your relationship to Rockaway itself. Like, has it, I don't know, I'm curious if it's like made you feel more embedded in the community, or like looking at the community from a different perspective at all? Like what has that been like, turning this place that you live and you love into a product?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've always had love for the community. I like have a lot of friends who run small businesses there. I have a lot of friends that have their families there. My entire family's there. I don't know. Um, I can't really pinpoint off the top of my head if I feel like anything has changed. I've always felt deeply rooted there, and proud to be from there. And it's really funny to see how much like to see multiple sides. I will say I've been surprised, like especially at trade shows or getting the name out there, like so many people coming up and being like, especially because it has like Soda Born in New York City on our can, they're like Rockaway, Rockaway Queens, and like all different walks of life, all different generations coming up and like sharing their like stories about Rockaway, and like I went to Rockaway when I was a kid and this, that, and the other thing. And like how many people, which is I guess is like a naive thing in retrospect, like how many people know about Rockaway? Like it's in New York City. It's not like it's like some hidden place in the middle of nowhere. So I think that's been really cool. I think that um, I also having been there for 40 years, like when I was growing up, like there were not, and it's been through so many iterations, right? Like Rockaway at the turn of the century was like hotels and like where rich people went, like from the city before they started going to the Hamptons, you know. And then when I was growing up there, like the 90s, like whatever, like not that many people were always going to Reese, kind of like from different parts of the city. But then like after Hurricane Sandy, another like traumatic incident that happened there that had my soul further connected to it. um all of this like piqued interest from like young people, young and old, like all different types of people from various parts of the city, like being drawn to coming to the beach there, the ferry service, so on and so forth. It's gone through like, and my friends and I, like the concessions and stuff and the boardwalk, like the boards were the boards. There were boards on the boardwalk. There were no concessions, like nothing like that. And like, my friends and I always joke, like, is it weird that this has happened? Or like, is it weirder that it wasn't always that case? Like, we are an awesome beach in New York City. So, yeah, I've got a lot of feelings towards the whole thing, of course.
Yeah, I bet. And I am lucky in a way to kind of know this like post Sandy Rockaway. Like I started going out there in like 2016, so like not
Mm-hmm.
that long ago. But even in that, even these past like 9, 10 years, like even the change, like the hotel going up and the changes that I've seen in my brief stint with Rockaway, it's been like a really interesting thing to observe. Um, and lately I've been thinking a lot about like inevitability as like a concept. I can be very like existential and philosophical in my like thinking in my free time. And I, to your point on like, is this weird or was this like always going to happen? Like, I think that is a good question. It's like Rockaway is such an incredible place. It's like, was this what it is now, kind of like were we inevitably like always leading up to this? And I know that spaces and communities are always evolving, so I'm really excited to see
Yeah.
what's like next for the community. But it feels like it's in a really special place, and it feels like all of the what I like about Rockaway, and I think what has made me really happy to see throughout the past few years of the evolution is it all feels quite thoughtful. Like all of the vendors and the boardwalk stands and like rippers and like all of these places, like they all have such personality and a way that makes it like really fun to come back every summer and like participate in like going to the surf club and going to like all of like the favorite spots. And I think that's like a really fun and cool thing to witness. It's been really fun to like, yeah, just watch it evolve slowly and kind of feel like I'm growing up with this next phase of Rockaway. Like when I started going at 23, I was like making no money, like so scrappy, like getting just like deli cheeseburgers with my girlfriends and like sitting on the beach until the last ferry. Like it's just funny to see it all evolve. But yeah, I am curious like what your hopes are for, I don't know, like this next iteration of the community. Like what's something you hope to see kind of I don't know, settle in or take off maybe in Rockaway in the next few years? Is there anything that's on your radar?
No, I think it's, I think it's good in all of its charm and like imperfections, and it's the people, like it's the people that make the community. And just got some really good people there.
Yeah.
It's not very prolific to say, and like sometimes there aren't just like there aren't good word logos for like describing a feeling, or describing like what good means. It's so like vanilla, but like just like truly, authentic, real, like people that are gonna like, you know, just be there for you. And you don't really find that in many, I mean, I don't think you find that in many parts of the world anymore. Like you can ring someone's doorbell and they're gonna like help you with whatever you need. And that's just like something that's unfortunately, I think, got lost um, along the way in without getting too deep in, the generations of this country. But I think that like that just like good souls are hard to come by, and there happen to be like a lot of good souls in a small little peninsula at the
Yeah.
end of Long Island in Queens. So I think it's perfect the way it is. I think it'll continue to change based on what happens in the rest of the city, right? Like
Yeah.
the visitors in the summer, it's very seasonal. Like a friend of mine who lives, has her family in Rockaway now, who I grew up with there, like once described the winter in Rockaway as like a Stephen King novel, because it's like very quiet and like, and I prefer the off season, like, typical like growing up on the beach, like give me the beach when nobody's there, and like cold plunging and like walks in my winter jacket and like hat and gloves, or give me the beach before anyone gets there in the morning or after everyone's gone home.
Yeah.
Because that's when I find it to be peaceful. And there's definitely a time and a place for like socializing and a good beach party, but for my peaceful practices with it, I prefer when it's quiet.
Yeah. No, of course. I can totally imagine that. I have been out in the winter and it is like it is a Stephen King novel. That's so well said. I I for the longest time I've had like a very real desire to like when I'm ready to leave Manhattan, like I definitely see myself like migrating up there, and that's just like such a dream of mine. And this winter, I love driving to the beach in the winter just to like take a nice cold walk, and it's just so like such a nice like way to reset my mind. But I drove out there this winter and I was like, "Oh my gosh. It is gray. It is simply so gray. It is so gray out here."
Yeah.
But um but I love it, and I feel like there's so much like beauty to be found even there, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, Rockaway will welcome you when you're ready, when you're ready to make the leap.
oh my
Just have
gosh,
a plan for, if you're used to Manhattan life, have a plan for what you're going to do in the winter.
I know. I am very much like thinking about that. I'm like, because
Yeah.
I'm in no rush to leave. I've got a really good setup in the Lower East Side right now, and I'm in a phase of life. I just turned 30 last summer, so I'm like in this phase of life where like all my friends are here. We've like been through the trenches of the past 10 years together. Like things feel so like fun and good right now. Um, but it's also like, yeah, I don't have to tell you, you've done the Tribeca loft thing. Like it can be, sometimes I'm just like, this is such an unsustainable way of living. Like it's just a
Yeah,
long
but
day
everyone
of
thinks that in New York,
office.
right? And then somehow you just keep making it happen. So, right? Like you've seen those memes on the internet. They're like, or I have anyway. Like it's like we don't really know how we're paying the rent, but we still are paying the rent every month. Like,
Yeah, it's like a sick addiction. And it really is like such an addiction.
yeah,
I love it here. I love it here so much. And
yeah,
I really do think it's places like Rockaway that make it sustainable for me to live here, because it's like that is the closest thing that I go find for like a nature outlet. And I know that's the
Totally.
beach isn't how everyone defines nature, but it's very much how I connect with it. And
Totally.
I'm curious what, not to like dive into astrology, but I'm also a fire sign, and I wanted to ask what sign you were.
Leo.
Oh, me too. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
I feel like
nice. When's your birthday?
August 20th. What about you?
Okay. 5th. August 5th.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great birthday, August 5th. Yeah. I feel like what you were saying earlier about like the water cooling you off, that definitely resonates with me. And I feel like there's just so much like sanity in being able to like get out to the beach. And I feel like it's such a gift to New York that we have that. And again, I just think like what you've built with Drink Rockaway like so does capture the essence of like what brings me back out there year after year, and even in the winters on those great days sometimes. So yeah, it's been amazing to like learn more about your own evolution and the evolution of Rockaway, and I'm just so grateful that you took some time out of your busy entrepreneurial schedule to have this conversation.
Oh, no, it was fun. I really enjoyed it as well. And it's always good to get to know other people that have made the leap and are working on the mindset to stay, the course of
Yeah.
what, feels right for them. And yeah, I think it's great. I'm appreciative of your time and having me on here, and, happy to support in any other ways that I can as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to get this live. And I know that my small but mighty bright siding community is they're also very loyal Rockaway fans and
Yes.
consumers. So they're going to be so excited about this. And I'll let you know, this is probably going to go out in the next week or so. So perfect timing, like midsummer. Can't believe the 4th
Great.
of July is next week. I'm like
I
thinking
know.
life
I
is so
know.
alive.
It's because the weather, I mean, obviously last week or the past couple of days, like, I mean, the heat wave, but like before that, right? Like, it's just been bizarre. And then you're like, oh, yeah, it's 4th of July,
I know. And what's
summer.
going on, not to like talk about the weather, but right, it's like so gray and gross out right now. I'm just like, what the fuck? This is so annoying.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday I was out, as I said, I had like a rough day from a business perspective, but I was out hustling around in Astoria and Long Island City with some of my distributor reps, and like I was like, I was wearing a t-shirt. I was like, I need a light jacket. It's cold. Like, why is it
Yeah.
cold? It's windy. It's gray. Like, what's happening?
The whiplash is insane. But anyway,
Yeah,
what are you up to this afternoon? Are you doing anything fun on a Friday?
I'm going to Rockaway.
That's
I'm gonna
perfect.
go pick up my yeah. I'm gonna go pick up my son from his little camp, and gonna go out to my mom's house.
Amazing.
As we call it, as she refers to it now, Nealon's Beach House. That's my son's name. So we're going to Nealon's Beach House, like spoiled 2-year-old brat. Uh,
That's amazing.
yeah, actually, I'm going to Rockaway, and then I have 30 cases of soda in my trunk because I've got to make some deliveries to local accounts. So
I love
lots
it.
of pleasure. Also awesome. If you don't know, there's and I don't know if you have plans for tomorrow, but there's an awesome festival going on, like on 97th Street, by
Oh,
the
cool.
skate park, called Rockstock.
Nice. I did not know
The
that.
guy, yeah, an old friend, and Jimmy Dowd has been doing it for like, I think this is the 19th annual Rockstock. It's like there's a skate competition, there's some live music on the boardwalk, there's a surf competition. Um, anyway, so I'll be doing that tomorrow. See some friends and hang out, and hopefully the rain stays away.
I hope so. That sounds really fun. If
Yeah,
I end up making it out there, I'll let you know.
yeah,
But yeah, Bridget, thank you again so much. It's been a really inspiring chat. And thank you also to Vicky and your PR team for helping to coordinate this. I know it got shifted a few
yeah.
times, but they've been so helpful and so great. So
Good.
appreciate the whole team. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon. I'll let you know when this drops. And it will also go out in a newsletter of mine too soon. So
Oh,
send you
great.
all the things. But yeah,
Awesome.
thank you again. And I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Erica. Take care.
All right. Bye, Bridget.
Bye.